Innovation under the sun. Malta's digital innovation capacity. How does this compare and contrast other ecosystems?
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we're not going to be just speaking about Malta's amazing weather and great atmosphere. We're going to dive deeper than that. We took a poll from our viewers and our audience in Malta, and we actually have some questions that were sent in to us so we can dive deep into how we can improve our ecosystem from Malta and beyond. So my first question that came in is to Jean. Doctor, as the Chief Innovative Technology Officer at the Malta Digital Innovation Authority, you're deeply involved in regulating and promoting digital transformation. How would you describe Malta's digital innovation capacity compared to other European ecosystems? Take it away.
So, good afternoon. Thank you for the question. First and foremost, I think we need to divide the question, the topic digital innovation capacity into twofold. There's part that relies heavily on the digital infrastructure. And one of the fundamental building blocks to enable digital innovation is the telecommunication sector. And Malta can boast to have a very strong digital telecommunication infrastructure. We have 3 mobile network operators, and when you look at the DESI report, which is a report published by the European Commission, Malta fares very well. We in fact have 100% capacity coverage of very high capacity networks, and we have very good results when it comes to fiber to the premises. That's one aspect. But then there's another aspect that we need to look into, which is not just the infrastructure, it's the skills. Because it's not just technology which is driving digital innovation, it's the humans that are driving digital innovations. And if we look at humans, you have 2 aspects, and this was something that was even mentioned in the previous panel. You have the innovators, but you have also the users. So it's important to make sure that you have both highly skilled human workforce so that they can drive further development and digital innovation, but you also have a highly skilled or digitally literate general population. Now, when it comes to this aspect, there is still room for improvement, and various public bodies are investing to support the digital literacy of our general public. Even when it comes to supporting innovators and ensuring that we elevate our workforce, we are putting a lot of effort. And in fact, the Malta Digital Innovation Authority is one of those public bodies that is investing. We focus from young children, organizing smart summer schools and boot camps to introduce these young children as young as 6-year-olds and also teenagers to digitally innovative aspects like AI, video editing, robotics, etc. But we also focus on the older people. For example, at MDIA, we have a Pathfinder Digital Scholarship Grant that we support people who would like to pursue further education at master's and postgraduate levels. So I think there are aspects which we are quite advanced, but then there's still room for improvement, and we are keeping a close eye on those indicators to make sure that we get there.
Excellent. So we have another follow-up question. You have a background, a lot of people don't know this, you have a background in telecommunications. A lot of information has flowed in and out of your office. From your perspective and from your experience, what can we do in Malta to make sure that we're keeping up with the digital transformation globally? What can we do different, keeping in mind that we thrive on constructive criticism?
I think it's not just a question of doing different, it's a matter of making sure that we keep an eye on our KPIs. We keep an eye on where we're faring well so that we don't fall behind. Okay, we are doing well when it comes to 5G coverage, but in a couple of years' time, there will be 6G. In a couple of years' time, we will rely more on edge connectivity. So it's important that we continue striving to be better, to do better. There's no destination point. We can never say we have arrived. And when it comes to the humans, as I said, it's a very important element. It's important to keep investing in humans and another aspect which I didn't touch upon in my previous question is making sure that we continue thriving when it comes to the regulatory landscape, because, and this is a point that was mentioned even in the previous panel, users don't only need to know how to use digital innovation, but users need to trust digital innovation. It's useless to put out a solution out there if users are wary of using it. And one way how to address that point is first by demonstrating what can be done with digital innovation in a pilot environment, in a manner that introduces slowly the users, and also making sure that you have the right regulatory framework to build trust.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Professor Neville, you have a plethora of knowledge and information when it comes to digital health and data integration in Malta and Europe and beyond. My next question that came in from the audience is actually an extremely interesting question. Professor, your experience in public health and health information management gives you a unique perspective on the integration of digital health solutions. How is Malta addressing the challenge of digital literacy, particularly among older adults and vulnerable populations, to avoid widening the digital divide in healthcare, which we've seen happen across other borders or other nations as well? Please take it away.
So, I think first and foremost, we need to understand what we mean by the term digital health. Because digital health does not necessarily depend on digital health literacy. Having my blood tests digitized at hospital level, even if I'm not digitally literate, is still digital health. So we might wish to sort of consider this wider definition of digital health. But in terms of your question, what are we doing? There's definitely much more room for progress, and I think I'll sort of park that up front. But I'd like to actually refer to two specific events that have disrupted this locally. One was COVID, and COVID has indeed challenged the barriers of both patients, citizens, and professionals in terms of what they can do in terms of digital health. So just having COVID tests available on My Health has actually pushed membership numbers or user numbers on the My Health system, which for those of us who are not Maltese is the local citizen health portal where you can check your own health record. That has driven up the user base substantially. So, you know, if there's a need, there's a way, so to say. The other event is, and this might sound strange, but a paper form has helped to increase digital health uptake in the elderly. You might say, how is that? So we had difficulties with the elderly navigating the EID setup, which is necessary to access the My Health system. And a paper form helped to actually, you know, they could actually fill in a paper form, and this is opened up for them as opposed to having to go through the EID setup. And that again has pushed up membership highly. I think it's worth appreciating here the role of the support network around the citizen. Because even if the elderly is not digitally literate, his son, his daughter, his carer is probably digitally literate, and that has helped also the uptake. And I think these were, I would say, the best practices I can think of.
Excellent. So you kind of answered the next question that the audience sent in, so I'm going to just shift it a little bit. Again, from your experience, because similar to all of our panelists, you're all esteemed and decorated in your fields with a plethora of knowledge. From your perspective, your professional perspective, what do you see happening in the future for Malta when it comes to data collection?
So I think the amount of digital health data that we're capturing, or rather the elements of a health record that we're capturing digitally, is increasing with time. And we're sort of moving, like every other country in the world, from vertical systems that maybe have difficulty in communicating between them. We're looking at now integrating those different elements of a health record. And this gives a huge potential. I think Malta, and I'd like to build also on my previous speaker here, Malta presents a set of unique selling points here. First and foremost, most of the population uses public healthcare services. That means that most healthcare activity is actually captured in the national e-health environment. So the data is there. This is also captured in English at source, which is again an advantage over other countries. Many of our clinicians are also very pro-research, as you have heard the previous panel as well, so they're very willing to engage. What we typically lack, as my colleague was saying here, sometimes it's not enough to have the money or the resources, but you need to have the skill set. You need to have enough people with the skill set. And in fact, the section where I come from has been doing this for probably 20 or 30 years. We know that our analytical layer is rather thin, but we invest a lot in having good data that goes back 20, 30 years. And the way we bridge this is by opening up as much as possible to researchers and other parties out there who would like to make use of our data with the right security, of course, in place and data privacy, etc., in order to generate added value that maybe we don't have the skill set yet to develop. We've been doing this successfully for several years, but I definitely think it could actually be, I would dare say, a market for Malta to explore.
Excellent, Professor. So the future is looking bright. It's looking bright. Abigail, you've been supporting startups and expanding digital solutions. This question came in from the audience. Tech.mt, which is very, very, very well known and has built several collaborations, plays a significant role in supporting tech startups in Malta. In your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that Maltese startups face when it comes to scaling their innovations globally and spreading?
Perfect. So thank you for the question. So Tech.mt is a public-private foundation which its aim is as the promotional arm of the digital innovation sector. So we work closely with mainly most key stakeholders in Malta for different aspects. So there are multiple challenges ongoing, both for startups and also SMEs. Having the right networks is one of them which comes immediately to mind. So when there's a startup that needs to scale up, it's important that they have the right resources to do so. So if it is for collaborations, one would need a network to meet with other key stakeholders, whether they come from academia, whether they come from also the private sector, in order to bridge their know-how and come up with a new, novel concept. In order to have the right networks, one needs to facilitate that. So as Tech.mt, we make sure to provide the right tools and enablers for key stakeholders to meet in an informal setting, for example, through local networking events, matchmaking sessions, workshops, and one can come up with their ideas there and then on the spot and find maybe a new collaborator that they can work together. Moreover, we also try to help when it comes to identify the talent shortage that has been multiplied and also has been mentioned by our colleagues here on the panel, and therefore we make sure that in order to help that we have ongoing projects, and moreover we also carry out different workshops for the young generation. So the youths, we try to identify different opportunities for them. So digital technologies, it is an enabler, and it is also a cross-cutting sector. Therefore, we attend multiple events which are organized by chambers, by private entities, by other public entities, and make sure to highlight the importance of the digital tech as a sector that is cross-cutting. Therefore, we try to entice them to also make sure to take that in their future endeavors. Financial struggles are always there, so although there are multiple grants, incentives, subsidies in place, we also try to identify and also understand what lacunae are available to try to address them together with other key entities. Most of them are also present here during this event, and come up with innovative grants that might assist them to scale up.
So after being here in Malta and after coming to this event, I've learned from my personal perspective as a journalist that there are collaborations, great collaborations between public and private sectors, right? And everything here is extremely accessible. From your perspective, this is a follow-up question. What can we do more of in Malta to attract foreign investment? Because obviously when it comes to the scalability of a startup, that is the big underlying question. What can we do more of?
So, as you have rightly identified, being a tech-driven economy, we try to also have multiple ongoing collaborations. So, working in silos is not going to work out. We need to make sure to use each other's strengths in order to move forward. As TechMT, we are also part of an ongoing collaboration. We are a public-private entity ourselves. Therefore, we act as the bridge between the industry, but also policymakers and also the governmental entities. But when it comes to foreign direct investment, last year we have launched In Malta. In Malta is a brand in which we try to attract foreign direct investment. It is a consortium of 5 leading entities coming from different sectors. So there's TechMT and MDIA, which are going to represent digital innovation. There's Malta Enterprise, but also Gaming Malta and Finance Malta. Different sectors in which we have different regulations and legislations which put the regulations in place. And under the In Malta brand, we provide the right platform for Maltese businesses to go to the global stage, therefore promote their services, promote their products, and also find new clients which are based internationally. But in the meantime, highlight the different advantages that we have as Malta when one is going to set up in Malta to act as a hub and access for other European markets. Therefore, the In Malta brand, we have saw multiple interests. So where last year we had a smaller delegation, now during these events, the appetite is increasing.
Thank you, thank you. Rul, the next question is for you. You have experience and knowledge worldwide on digital health and data ownership. This came in for you for your work at Medvia and your experience in Flanders. You had spoken previously at other events about a personal data vault through solid technology in Flanders. How does that approach that you had spoken of compare to Malta's approach to data ownership? And what opportunities or challenges do you foresee in implementing similar models here in Malta?
Very interesting question. I think a lot of what we see in Flanders is very similar to here in Malta. So we're a technologically quite advanced society with good infrastructure, but our government has chosen the opportunity to create personal vaults for each inhabitant where they can store a lot of their own personal information. This is not just health information, it can also be, for example, the diplomas that you got from schools, but they've made the choice to provide these spots where every bit of information about an individual can be stored, and that makes this data also traveling with that individual. So if you move abroad, you always have access to all that data. And it immediately connects also with what you were saying, Professor, in that very often a lot of this data is in silos. We try to break these silos, and we try to make the individual the custodian of their own health data. Obviously, this creates immense opportunities because all the data of your own health not just from your primary physician, but also from hospitals, from lab outcomes, but also from your wearable. They're all in one place, which makes it incredibly valuable for personalized medicine applications. Also, for like pharma companies and others, they're very interested in the data because it really describes your personal situation. But obviously, we also face a lot of the same challenges that you have, especially when it comes to skills building. We also face the situation where probably about 40% of our inhabitants lack basic digital skills. So even if they have their own data pod, they're not really educated on how to work with it. And it remains very challenging, especially for elderly people and people with lower socioeconomic backgrounds, typically the ones that need healthcare the most. They're still struggling on how this should be done. So what we try to do actually is a twofold approach. On the one hand, we've built a framework which is called the 8 Caring Technology Principles. And it's a framework where we try to educate also companies that are building solutions to really go through this framework and think about the social and the socio-cultural acceptance of digital health technologies. And on the other hand, what we also try to do is really educate the entire ecosystem. Because we know that it's not just about the technology, it's not just about educating people, but also about educating politicians. Because they don't have a tendency for very long-term planning. They think very often in short terms. So if we want to implement these data pods and we want to implement them for the benefit of the entire ecosystem, also politicians need to be supportive of this long-term transition. And so what we really try to focus within our ecosystem is trust. It's making sure that all the stakeholders understand what their individual roles are and how they need to rely on others in the ecosystem to do their part of the job. So I think trust is the key word here.
Can you take a minute and talk to us about quadruple helix and data ownership?
Yeah, so it really comes back to this trust issue. If we really want to have academics, the ones that are at the forefront of innovation, but we also want the healthcare organizations, we want the companies, we want the politicians to all support this sharing of data, this bringing the data to the patient, and then again, based on the patient's own preferences, share this data with different stakeholders. The trust aspect is extremely important there. And this is something that requires long-term collaboration between all the stakeholders. It's about open communication, and it's also about keeping the boots on the ground, not promising castles in the sky, but coming up with really short-term, small, simple solutions where people can see what the added value is. And it's through these small experiments, these small proofs of concept, that trust can be generated between all the parts of the ecosystem.
Thank you so much. Excellent. We're going to shift things a little bit with the closing remarks, and I'm going to ask you guys something outside of the questions that came in that just came to mind. Very briefly, please, if you will, 30 seconds to 1 minute each. AI, good or bad?
Good. I'm going to use my 1 minute. Good, because we have regulation, we have regulators, so ultimately nothing can be completely good. If you leave it up to people to take it wherever they like, there's always a certain risk. But that is where the role of regulators come in. So good, thanks to regulators.
Excellent. Please, Professor.
I think it's actually too late to ask that question. AI is here, same as our mobile phone is here, so might as well live with it and make it work. In my area, I think the European health data space will actually facilitate even more development on AI, making use of existing data collections, and I'm very excited to watch that space.
Thank you.
Good. It is an opportunity, However, one needs to embrace it and make sure that as there are regulations in place, people abide with them and be innovative in order to find ways to keep moving forward.
Thank you so much. Please.
Explainable AI, good. Black box, garbage in, garbage out AI, bad.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our panelists a round of applause for coming here today. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate your time.